my wonderment, the man who shoots the brazen pollen. Yeah, pundit's a good word, isn't it? I love to be a pundit, pundit. Now, tell me this, what's going on in the Republic at the moment?
What's going on?
The ombudsman,
yes.
rows going on,
right.
people being sacked. What is happening?
Total mess. I suppose it all stems, Rowan, from the Morris Tribunal, which was held into some years ago in an investigation into the guards in Donegal. It unearthed unbelievable corruption. I mean, Dacol McBrearty did years in jail. Completely innocent guy. And fair play to him, he fought his case, he proved his point. He eventually got the government to listen and got them set up the tribunal, and guards were very seriously at fault for framing him. There's no other way to put it. That's the way it came out, that's fact.
But guards shouldn't do that sort of thing.
Shouldn't do that sort of thing. Well, we thought that was the end of it, and that with the Morris Tribunal, the government, as usually happens in these cases, they reacted very quickly, and they set up a Garda ombudsman thing, which they never had in the South before.
No, but they had a good template for it. Nuala Olone.
Nuala Olone was an excellent template.
She did the job well.
She did the job so well that some of the people down here, politicians down here, want to get rid of her. She was doing that good of a job. So the upshot of the matter is that, unfortunately, the Garda ombudsman up there, who was a retired judge at the time, was to a certain degree constrained in what he could do, in that the guards, it was never put in legislation that the guards had to cooperate.
Wow.
So the guards, to use the American phrase, would have played the Fifth Amendment on a lot of
occasions. They could have said to the person investigating, i.e. the ombudsman, go away, we're not going to talk to you.
Exactly. So the judge, who had been used as judges are in their own courts to their word-bin law, only put up with this for a very short space of time, and he pulled out, right? So they brought in, as very often happens in this Republic of Ireland, they brought in a guy from London to do it.
Oh.
Okay? And this guy came in naturally expecting things to be the way everybody would expect them to be, and that the ombudsman has total power to investigate the guards or investigate the police in everything, only to discover that the very first case which was brought to him about the whistleblowers, you might remember the business of people getting points struck off.
Oh, yes.
So Rowan Hand's well-known celebrity in Newry,
winking and nod.
He gets 10 penalty points on his licence. The next 3 he gets, he's going to lose the licence. Goes and sees his local councillor, goes and sees his local politician. He says, leave that with me, Rowan, I'll sort that out.
But
all of us.
We might have done that. We might have done that 40 years ago.
That's right. But all of a sudden, I wouldn't do such a thing. Speak for yourselves.
But no, but when I say we, then our society would have done that. It would have been de rigueur.
It was a nod and a wink society. And there were times where a local bobby sometimes saved people from taking a wrong direction by taking decisive action. But this was different. These guys, at the level of ordinary guard now, or maybe it was sergeant, were able to go into the Pulse computer, right, and delete your points on the computer. So all of a sudden, Rowan has a clean licence again, right? And of course, when we look at when the whistleblower brings the information, and we look at the people who've got this, it's been local celebrities, local politicians, local clergy in some cases, right? Local lawyers, one judge, and a few other,
Sounds like a gravy train.
So people are saying, what's this all about? Is the money changing hands? Well, I don't know about that. I haven't proved that. But anyhow, when Stephen, his second name eludes me, comes in from London, he says, right, I have to look at this computer and I have to see what's happening here. First thing Martin Callahan, who's the chief of the police, says, oh, no, you no right to look at that computer.
Yes.
So all of a sudden the ombudsman realises that where am I going to check whose points are related and who's
This is madness.
It's crazy, but it gets worse. It gets worse. The ombudsman then, various other things happened, too lengthy to talk about, and the ombudsman then discovered, through conversations with senior Garda, that they were in possession of information which could only have come from his office. So he suspected a leak, but couldn't find the leak, so decided that someone must have been listening in on their conversations. In other words, they were being bugged. So he wanted to do something about it, and his 2 routes were, guess what? Go to the guards, get them to investigate. And he says, well, there's no point in going there, because I think he suspected that's who it was, although he hasn't said that. The other was to go to the Justice Department, Alan Shatter. He thought, well, if I go to the Justice Department, the guards are going to hear about it. So what does he do? He goes to London, contacts his old mates there, and brings in a team, sweeps the building. They couldn't actually definitively say that they found evidence, but they found a couple of very suspicious Wi-Fi movements in the building, which could not be explained. So they reckon that it was been done. You know,
and
sounds like the Kremlin, actually.
Callanan got his bird in a blaze about all of this.
He got his bird in a blaze, and the reason he got his bird in a blaze was that the ombudsman came out and said he did not suspect the Garda, but nobody had mentioned the Garda before that. So by saying he did not suspect them was as good as saying, well, they might be in the frame, you know. So Callahan, he went mad. Not only that, though, he rubbished, and I mean rubbished, the two whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yes.
And he said that it was disgraceful. Out of, I can't remember, 13,000 Garda, these were the only two that had any complaints. And he went on television and said this. So people says, well, hang on a second. I mean, these guys, why were they doing this? So what happened was then the whistleblowers were not getting a hearing. They gave the complete file over to Micheál Martin, who, as you know, is in the opposition. And Micheál Martin presented this in the Dáil yesterday to the shock and horror of Enda Kenny. Because whatever it contains, it's bad. But one of the things that it does possibly contain is a very serious case of a taxi driver, woman, who got badly beaten by a guy after a fare that she was dropping off, took an assault case against him. The guards in Cavan took almost 18 months to bring it to court. When it came to court, it was up on a Monday. She got a phone call on a Saturday from a guard who said, you don't need to turn up in court. That case has been put back. So on Tuesday, I think it was, a superintendent of the guards rang her and said, he didn't ask her where she was, but said, that case went ahead yesterday. That guy got a 9-month suspended sentence and he's out on bail. Now, the woman obviously went ballistic over this because she wasn't there to give her evidence. How they went ahead without the chief witness is a very good question. Right? It just normally wouldn't happen. But it gets worse. While this guy is out on bail, he meets another poor unfortunate creature who gets murdered. So he is convicted this week of her murder, right? And has gone down for about 10 years or something like that.
Is there not a moment when
this woman is now saying, if you'd acted on my advice, that guy would have been behind bars and that woman would be alive. And her husband is suing, the murdered woman's husband is suing the guard commissioner.
Well,
the whole thing's a mess.
What about Shatter?
Shatter's position is that we understand, but it hasn't been proven yet, that the file which Micheál Martin was waving around in the Dáil yesterday.
As he would.
And Joan Burton didn't cover herself in glory either. She talked about something about a snowstorm of papers that you sent us here. We haven't had time to read them. But apparently in it, it shows that Shatter knew about this 2 years ago.
Can he survive?
He can't. In a normal democracy, he'd have been gone long
But
ago.
it almost seems that anything goes in the Republic.
One of the reasons that he has survived so far is that some years ago, when Enda's head was on the chopping block with Fianna Fáil as the leader, Shatter was his main, him and Michael Noonan were his two main supporters. So it would take an awful lot to get Enda to sack him. But I don't think he can survive this, because Enda came out last night, and said that what he was reading in this file was atrocious. Wow. So you can't make a statement like that. So if it turns out that Shatter knew about it and he's not able to, in some way, wriggle out of it, and I suspect from what Micheál Martin seemed very confident yesterday when he was saying, the Minister of Justice knew about this 2 years ago and did nothing about it, and now look at the situation we have. And if it's tied to this murder, well, that's very bad. Very bad.
But I mean, it's I'm using a word here, obscene.
Obscene. Well, actually, in fact, that I think is a word that's been used quite a bit, and people are right. It is obscene, because you're talking about the forces of law and order, and you know what we did here to get rid of the RUC because of this sort of stuff. Well, actually, it wasn't because of this sort of stuff. It was because of other things that were happening. And then we discover that on Garda Síochána, there since 1922, 23, unarmed police force, generally
by
speaking.
Collins himself.
Exactly.
Founder of the nation.
And we discover all this. And we say to ourselves, before there were such things as whistleblowers, or before there was such a thing as the internet.
What was going on?
What was going on? What was going on?
There was a enrichment, I would have thought, in big style.
But I'll tell you something about it, Rowan, and to a certain degree, the voting public must take some responsibility for this, because people shake their heads and walk away. A very good example of this was, only a small example, but a good example. We have an advice centre down in Belfast, and I was in it one day, and there was a guy in with his family, and he had all...
We should tell the people, when you say we, it's the SDLP.
SDLP,
yeah.
SDLP,
That's Peter's other hat when he's not our political pundit.
The advice centre gives people advice for all sorts of things. And there was a man in it one day, and he had his family with him, and he'd been in for the third time that week. It's something to do with the benefits were cut. And our people had been on the phone to England, and they'd been doing all sorts of things and completing forms. And in the middle of it, to check his identity, right, which they needed to do, they said, "We've been looking for you on the voting register here, but we can't find you." And he says, "I'm not on that." And the girl says, "Why are you not on it?" "That," he says, and he points up to the politician's picture, which is up on the wall behind him. It's his office he's in now.
Yeah.
And he says, so those boys are doing nothing for you. He says, "Your politics is wasting time." And the girl saying, "Hold on a second, hold on." She says, "I've been on the phone for you now 3 times to England. I've written letters to... Who do you think's paying for that? Only him." And she points to the politician. She says, "He runs this advice centre to help people." But that's an attitude of people. They don't see politics as being involved in that. They see this as something else.
Sometimes I rather think politicians fail to cover themselves with glory. The story this morning, the local story of the fracture clinic at Daisy Hill closing. 2 politicians, one SDLP, one Sinn Féin, dangerous, terrible, awful, disgraceful. And then you look down the story a little bit, and the department, the trust has made it clear that at the moment people have to go to Belfast for their fracture surgery. As a consequence of the change, there's going to be 4.5 million more in the kitty, and they're going not to have to go to Belfast anymore for surgery. They're going to have to go to Craigavon. So this is a win situation.
It's a win situation.
And an SDLP and an
are against it.
Are against it, and the Sinn Féiners.
Well, Rowan, that is exactly the same as has happened with the health hub. The health hub, which I think would be a brilliant thing to be built up at the Abbey, right? Which would be like a major health centre, right? Dealing with fractures and dealing with minor stuff and dealing with... Politicians, generally speaking, are against it. No, it's not that they're against it. What they always see is a dilution of the services at Daisy Hill. They see it as a Trojan horse. And they're highly suspicious that this is a move to close another bit of Daisy Hill. But I agree with you. You got to take it in the round. You got to look at the whole thing. And it is, that is a positive one. Same as the health hub is. I'm glad to see it's going ahead.
And always they seem to leave it. Very often, let's keep it accurate.
They protect their own patch.
And they want to please the people.
Because the people decide whether they're going to be there the next time or not. But to go back to the more general point, we have about nearly 80,000 people we're going to have in the whole of the new district council area.
Wow,
That's between Newry and Mourne and Down, right? Now, we will go down from probably about 53 councillors at the moment between the two to about less than 40, right? Which is a good old cut. There's about 25% of a cut, right? And that can only be a good thing. Now, there'll be extra powers, especially planning, which will be very interesting to watch, because you will remember from civil rights days that planning was a major issue with local councils.
Absolutely.
And had to be taken back. And it was a good job it was. So it's coming back. So the point I'm sort of coming at is this. We in Newry and Mourne and Down have the highest number of voters registered in the whole of the United Kingdom. We have nearly 92% of our people have registered, unlike my friend in Belfast.
He'll not be bothered.
So they're on the register. But you know something about it? Little more than half of them will actually vote. So if those people who went to the bother of registering, little more than half of them, about 60%, in some cases less, will actually come out next June and decide who they're going to have. And then the 40% who don't vote, you'll be able to meet them in the coffee shop or in any of the pubs, giving up hell about what the council's doing or not doing.
Talking about councils, what's the sense of our council up here going to spend God knows how much money on extending the council chamber for 1 year?
Well, that to me is absolutely, totally ridiculous. We have, well, partly I'll tell you what it's about. Partly it's about securing the new council base for Newry, because Down did worse than that. They spent about 10 million building a complete new centre about 2 years ago. And tell me what that was about.
There's only one thing it was about.
New centre in Downpatrick. The trouble about it is it's too small to take the council. But that was a move, I would say, to swing the centre of power to Downpatrick from Newry. This, what's been talked about up here, is somewhere to, because it's going to take 2 or 3 years for the transition. Because here's what we're going to have. After the election, right, next June, we will have the 40 who will be the 40 sitting members for the next 5 years.
Yes.
But we'll also have the other 53, right? Because we'll have the both of them together. Some of the 53 will be some of the 40, if you understand. But there's an awful lot of the 53 who are leaving. So they're going to be sitting alongside. So we need a much bigger chamber than we have. But look, Canal Court is a big place down there. Happy to let it out. There's plenty of what do you call these conference centres about, which are looking for work. We could do without spending whatever it is they're going to spend on that place up there. Having said that, we're in an advantageous position in that place is not fit for purpose. It's a heap of, it's like a rabbit warren. So a new centre really should be settled. Some people say it should be in Mayo Bridge or Hilltown, which is equally doesn't. But I can't see that happening.
No, I can't see that happening at all. So let me take the birds home to roost on your SDLP perch.
Yes.
How's Alistair?
Alistair is
the leader.
Alistair is still the leader and will be on.
Oh, that's a bit like the fellow saying that the guards weren't involved. You've raised a. Is there a question mark?
Well, there's always a question mark over a leader. Right? Why I say that? No, why I say that is the upcoming elections, especially the European election, are going to be the make or break of any leader, because if it almost did for Enda Kenny once. And then Enda Kenny went on to build a very, very strong party from it.
He did.
One thing about Alistair is the best networker I have ever met in my life. There's nobody he doesn't know in any part of the country. And you could say to Alistair about, for instance, something out in Camla. And he'd say, there's a guy out there, I met him in UCD one time. You should contact him. He would know the area, right? So that is a very great strength in a leader. Mark didn't have that now.
No.
Mark was a brilliant politician, great strategist.
Would he have learnt that at the heels of Hume?
He very much so. And Hume was the same. Hume led from the front, but he was that far in front that the rest of the party were way behind him. That was a difficulty with that. But no, Alistair, if Alistair manages to get the vote up across the country, and this is what he's doing. Here I'm starting to sound like the unionist talking, but this is a country, like, across the 6 counties. If Alistair manages, or even an alliance member talking like but if Alistair manages to get the vote up, right? In places, not maybe Newry, because Newry's reasonably strong, or South Down's even stronger, SDLP. But see, Antrim's working on Ballymena, Fermanagh and South Tyrone. If he gets the vote up there, that will be a big, big difference on that. We need quite a decent swing. The Shinners have actually plateaued. It's not to say they're going to go back.
No, but they're going to. That's as far as they're going.
They're definitely a plateau, and it's going to be very interesting to see in this town, especially, and in this whole of South Armagh, what happens. Because for the first time, there's not a guy standing, apart from one, who would have been involved with the old Sinn Féin party, or who would have been involved with the military wing.
Yes.
So you got all young, new blood
that's coming in,
university graduates, presumably smart young people. The one advantage we have this time is that a lot of them aren't known.
Of course.
But that'll not always be the case.
But I mean, if you're talking about getting the vote out, if those the SDP coterie within that 90-odd% of the who have registered here, if Alistair gets the people out. Get them to go and vote. They're going to vote SDLP in sufficient number to do harm.
I have organised a number of campaigns in this area over the years like that, and I will always, the same thing would always come up. I think people say, Sinn Féin will be getting them out. Sinn Féin will be sending out the taxis. Sinn Féin will be looking at the register. And I say, good. Because if they're getting them out, that's what democracy's about. Now, whether they vote for Sinn Féin when they get out or not, is different. But when you get people out to do vote, and he says they're probably getting some of our voters out too. Like.
Why is it an image is coming to me of the Midlands of Ireland in a village hall with men with cloth caps leaning over sort of chicken wire protected tables and counting and going like this here?
Well, to me, I love that. In fact, when they brought in the electronic machines,
you got rid of that quickly.
Who was it spent? Well, it wasn't Noonan did. Somebody down there spent 9 million on that, and they were dumped in the middle of the Irish Sea or something like that afterwards. You know, but when they brought those in, there was a whole lot of guys like in that felt like committing harry-carry because it's the highlight of their 5 years to be there. And these guys are absolutely brilliant, and I mean brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're crackers. And I'll tell you a funny story. There was one time, the time that David Trimble lost the seat down in Banbridge, and it was a vicious campaign that with DUP and him. You know, this is some years ago. And I was down at our account, and we were keeping an eye on what was going on in the Unionist camp, which is across the chicken wire across the way, you know. And I came out to the what you call it, and the journos were all outside, and they were hungry for information. I mean hungry for information. And when I came out through the door, anybody come out through the door, the count, they just latched onto them. Yeah. So I gave them what I thought was my thinking on the way that was going. And to be honest, like it was a bit of a fly. The next thing I heard, it was on the radio and it was the news because I was that hungry for news. So my prediction turned out to be true, but more by good luck than anything else. So every time I come out through the door after, these guys were down.
Here's our man.
I was the expert.
I thought I had exclusive rights to you as my pundit. But listen, we got to leave it there because the half hour is
once again a very pleasurable half hour.
Oh, it's been good fun. We shall do it again.
We shall do it another time.
Write into your diary next Friday. Have a check. My people will talk to your people. I think that's what we'll do. Peter, thank you very much indeed. Dear friends across the world, thank you very much for being with us this morning. We have run our course, we have arrived, we have done everything we need to do for you this morning. Inshallah, God willing, I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7:30. 7:30 to 10:30, I shall be your host here in Destination Newry's morning outreach to the world. Don't forget, try not to sweat the small stuff, try to be happy. Remember what my colleagues and friends across the Niger River in Africa would tell you. When you've done your best in the struggle between the immensities of your life and can do no more, simply they would tell you, great spirituality, simply take it easy, lay your head in your hand, and leave the rest to the God you believe in. Go well, be happy, take care. Thanks, Peter. All the best, take care.